So fingers crossed this is all working okay. It's not that I've had issues, but I've changed the setup to accommodate one or two things. And it's one of those things where you never know if it's all going to plan. So what I'm doing is I'm using OBS. I'm using that as a virtual camera so that I can switch between different feeds coming in from a HDMI switcher. But that has meant I've had to use a separate device to manage the audio. There was a bit of off sync with the video, and StreamYard doesn't allow for you to fix that, but I've managed to do that in OBS and I'm utilizing it. So fingers crossed this is going well. Right, so we're going to be talking about content and consistency, and I thought I'd use a real world example with a client that I'm working with and the benefits of not changing things too much and provide an additional consistency, and why when you were thinking about creating content for the long term, one and dones don't usually yield great results because it doesn't allow you enough time to reflect on what it is that you're trying to create. It doesn't give you enough time to really look back and go, okay, how can we tweak this for the next time? So the gentleman that I'm talking about, he is a UK professor, and the whole reason why he came about to create his own YouTube channel is that he was talking about music with his students from a psychologist's perspective, and he did a video called Hi Ren, which is by the artist Ren, and this for him blew up, and he did it on YouTube because it was an easy way for him to record this, do an assessment or reaction of that video, and then he could show it to his students. But lo and behold, this actually took off, so he decided that he was going to continue to pursue this. The trouble that he was having is that over time, even though he's amassed a good following, he was finding it burdensome on his time, the actual shooting, the editing, the time away from family and everything. So that's when he started to reach out, and he knows a referral, well, not a referral, but he knows a friend of mine who I've been doing videos for, and he reached out. So at the time that he reached out, he hadn't done another video for about, I think it was about 6 months, might have been about 6 months, and in our discussion he said that I want to continue doing this because I feel that it could be something great. And then he went on to explain the problems that he was having, the amount of time and everything, and that the equipment that he was using was perhaps crashing, or he would have to redo it again because there was people outside talking, or there was a family emergency. So there was a lot of things that was going on that was getting in the way. So looking at his channel, we could see that he has a real good view base. He has really good followings and he has a really good number of views. So the whole point of this was to elevate the production value, but it wasn't to stray away from what he was doing. And what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to the mobile. So the screen will go blank for a second, and then we can go through his account, and I'll just talk about some of the things that he was doing. So right now we can see his account, and as you can see, Hi Ren, it generated 21,000 views. And the format that he has is very simple. He is literally, as you can see, he is just watching the video on his laptop, and then he is reacting and giving a psychologist's view on the video, what the lyrics mean and how they can be interpreted from a personal level. So the format itself is very simple, but as you can see, what we've got is that we've got a plethora of different thumbnails that are going through. And you might be thinking, what is the problem with that? Well, one, it's consistency. Right now, looking at his channel, you couldn't tell if he has a brand. And this is important for businesses, because you want to look how you want to show up, or you want to represent how you show up, because brand is all about what other people think of you. And that is informed from everything between how you are presenting yourself online and in person. So if there is inconsistency with the font, the colors, how the thumbnail is presented, or how the channel is presented in general, then as a business, people will naturally look at that and go, okay, it's all well and good this person saying that they are great in this field, but we can see that just from their own content that they're being pretty inconsistent with their messaging. So it's important to understand that consistency means consistently showing up with the same look and feel I'm gonna go for. Now, one thing I will point out, and this is actually a good thing for you guys when you are creating content, so we'll just switch back. You don't need to be an expert. His channel is proof enough that you can have a good idea, have a good product or a good service, and you can run with it. And the cost of entry is just your time. And he is doing this on a camera, an older camera, and his laptop, and it's very, very simple. But he's getting very good views out of it. So you don't have to be going, oh, I need a video production. We don't need to worry about just that yet. The whole point of this is for me to say to you, right, what you need to do is, one, just start. That is the base. Create consistency in just showing up. The views will be there if the people resonate with your audience, if resonate with your content, and that the titles and that make some sort of sense. You don't have to be spot on. His channel is proving that in leaps and bounds, and you can see that when you go into the individual videos, he has fantastic engagement and fantastic likes. It really is impressive. But what he wanted to continue this and take it, make it great. But he said, I know that this is going to take time, because he has an underappreciation of how much time it took him just to do those. So we said we can absolutely do this, and what we're going to do is just update or upgrade the production value. We're not actually going to change the format of the video. We're not actually going to change much of anything. Where we are going to improve is first his time. Does his time, this time that he spent filming with us for one day, is that a benefit for him? And just to give context, we shot 6 videos, and this produced 3 months worth of content for him, because he was releasing this once a fortnight. Whereas in the past, if you can see, we go back 1 year ago, so a year ago, go back. He was consistent for a while, and then 11 months ago, so he was creating a lot of content, and then it comes to a point, there we are, 10 months ago is the last that he did this. So you can see that there needs to be changes with his color scheme. He wanted to update the production value and the consistency. He wanted to make the channel great, and he wanted to get it more consistent in the sense of, I want to be able to do this, and once a fortnight a video comes out, allow the content to breathe, and then in a fortnight another one comes out. So we did 6 videos, and the first part, like I said, was to make sure that he was invested in the time, did the process of doing that, did he feel good about it, how was it for him, before we even tackle things like thumbnails and the rest of it, before we delve deeper into it, that was the first objective, and he absolutely loved that. The time that he had back, he said, was phenomenal, because it meant that he had 3 months of just sitting back and watching the content come out, because I'm in control of the channel as well as him. And he said it was brilliant that once a fortnight on a Sunday at 1 o'clock I was seeing a video come out, and it maintained the consistency of what he did before. And that was important, because we wanted to elevate what he was doing but not change it. And that's the other thing that you want to consider. If you are going to be creating content, you're okay at the start to be very flexible, but if you've established a base where, say for instance, you have like 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers, if you are going to change anything to make things better, you've got to take the people that built you up with you, whilst, you know, having enough interest for new people to follow you, and you don't want to alienate the people that were there for you from the start. So that is why we said that we weren't going to change much. We just wanted to make sure that the production value was where he was happy, and all that. So if we go back to the phone, right. So to give context, that's where we started. Those 3. So there are 6, but I won't go further up because we've changed the thumbnails, and this is what I'm talking about, incremental changes. So if we just play, let's let this play through. So the production value has gone from just him in his bedroom to him coming to our location and then having 2 cameras. The reason why we did 2 cameras is mainly for backup and a different perspective, so that we could cut between if he needed to stop and speak if he stumbled his lines. But I'll say this for Nick, he's fantastic when it comes to articulating what he wants to say. So we didn't change the format. It's still him talking about the subject, about a music video, and giving his opinion. All we did was we took away the burden for him. We kept the consistency because we didn't want to alienate any of the followers that he's already got. And what this means is that they actually give feedback, because if you can see, we originally did the first batch where you have the viewer, the screen is smaller in the corner, and the reason for that is that when you are creating reaction videos, when it comes to music, you can get copyright strikes, and you want to try and mitigate that as much as you can. So that's why we tried it that way. And we had a few comments to say that a lot of people watch this on their phone, and could we make it a little bit bigger, and that's what we did for batch 2. But consistency wise, it is in line with what he did before. So we're not changing much, and that is why I'm saying about content and consistency. When you're creating content for your business, you don't want to make these massive swings. You want to make sure that you're improving on stuff small, so you can actually see the impact of the change that you made. If you make too many changes, there's going to be too much stuff that you have to assess. And this is why, if anybody tells you they're creating content or a video or anything like that, it's a simple thing and that it will revolutionize your business, send them away. This is something that takes a while, because your business needs to understand that, well, not needs to understand, but you know, you spent a long time building your business, and you can take a long time building a brand, and it only takes 5 minutes to bugger all that up, and you don't want to do that. So we started with a consistent thumbnail. Now, the next hurdle that you're going to come across is that once we got through the first batch with the 6 videos, and he was really happy with the engagement, like Lean With Me had 11k views, this one had 1.7. There are Rod Wave That was bizarre when that was. That didn't do too we were a bit disappointed with that, but it wasn't the format, just perhaps the subject title. When you get to a point where you have created the consistency through upping the production value, and we had everything in place, you then say to yourself, right, okay, how can we take this further? And then you get into the analytics, and then you get into really paying attention then to the thumbnail. Because here's the sad part: when you're creating content for YouTube or any things like that, the first 5 seconds are the most important. You can say 10 to 15 seconds, but what we find and what the analytics are showing is that YouTube will say, right, within the first 30 seconds, that is where they will do the retention drop off. And you can see it's a big dip, and then it will steady out. So those first 5 to 30 seconds are so key, because that is where the massive drop is. It's like a roller coaster. As soon as you go over, it's a very, very sharp drop. And a lot of the time, viewers will click away, because it's either that the topic is not interesting, or what you have said in the title and the thumbnail hasn't delivered on the promise that the thumbnail and the title has done. So even though the channel itself is simple in its approach, it might be that a music artist has fallen out of favour, so you might not get as many views, and that goes the same with your business. Regardless of the content that you're creating, perhaps the topic doesn't always resonate with the views of the people, so you might spend quite a bit of time creating a video or creating content and it falls flat in its ass. And that just happens, and that's why creating content for the long haul gives you that perspective back on going, in retrospect, okay, we looked at these topics, they didn't resonate well, but these 4 or 5, they hit the nail on the head. Let's do more of that. They obviously like this with our personality, with our branding, and that is exactly the problem with YouTube and those type of content, is that you are competing with everybody else, and that title and thumbnail has to hook people in. So whilst in the first batch, what we did was we maintained consistency with the original videos that Nick was doing. We just wanted to elevate the production of it and provide a certain color theme. He likes teal and orange as well, so there's notes of that going through the titles, the thumbnail titles. Let's go back to the phone. There we go. So as you can see, we made the images, the videos bigger on the next one, and the same with McKay. So I let that play. So we made those changes. We listened to what the audience was saying, and we made those changes. And actually, we shot the first batch, and off 1 or 2 of the videos, the first video where they said about the actual size, and we actually went back and we re-edited and made those those bit different and re-uploaded, because these were being shared out, so we was able to do it. So the consistency now between the 3 thumbnails is there, as opposed to before. The color theme and everything is a little bit all over the place, so we just wanted to maintain that. So as everything was coming out once a fortnight, we can say, right, okay, we're now applying a consistent template, and this is what we're going to be doing going forward, just to provide another level of professionalism. And then come to the next batch, then we decided we need to do better with the titles. Let's change something, and let's look at the analytics and see what we can do. And these 4, or this one here, they all were like this title and that title. They were in the same format, but I went back through and I wasn't happy with those titles, with the thumbnail. I wanted to improve upon them, because I knew that that 5 seconds and the 30 seconds is where you get the drop off. And after viewing the analytics, I was just like, we can make improvements now, because we've done one batch where we've kept everything consistent and the original viewers are happy. We've made the slight changes that we needed to provide the consistency that they're used to and that they like, but we've also updated the production value. What's the next step? And that was the titles and the thumbnail. And this is going to be an ongoing process, because we've changed these a few times. This is not the only time that we've changed it, but you want to make sure it's consistent. So if I scroll this up a bit, just so you can see. So where it says the hardest first year, that was the first one that we changed, because I changed that yesterday. Well, I changed that Friday in prep for it to be released on Sunday, and the views in that one day has massively spiked. It's 2.4k in just one day, whereas the other ones, there was like 814 views in 2 weeks, and there's only 1.2k views in the last 4 weeks. This one always does well, but if you can notice the difference, 2.7k's. So where this was like this, we have now changed it. And because this one did such a good job of, not that one, this one. Let me just go back so you can see it there. Because that one did a good job and the engagement and the click-through and everything was great, I was like, right, okay, let's go back retrospectively and change them. And that's what we done. So I went back and I changed this so that they're consistent. These ones are older ones, that's why he's got those there, but it's still consistent, and we're just trialing things at the moment. We are, but we were really pleased with this one, that it's doing so well. And that's why I personally believe that if you're going to be creating content for the long haul, do not be drastic in changing things. You have to start with a base level of consistency, and that just usually means showing up. And like what Nick was doing at the start of creating his channel, he was showing up. He didn't worry about the fact that it perhaps didn't look the best or the thumbnails weren't the best. He didn't worry about that. He was showing up, and he was consistently coming, and he grew a bloody good base. So as a business, you don't need to really worry so much about how it's been presented initially, because your first hurdle is just to show up and be consistent in that, because it's a long process. You have to see if you really like the process. The next stage then for him was the investment. He was like, do I pay someone a fraction of the cost of what it would cost me to buy a new camera, to buy a new computer, to buy the editing software, then to learn all the nuances? And he said, it was already taking me enough time with what I had, let alone investing that amount of money to do it again. And he said, I knew that if I went down that route, I would give up sooner because my heart wouldn't be in it. Whereas with this, I can just turn up, shoot for one day, even though that day he feels is draining, simply because it is a long day. And because he is a psychology professor, he's thinking a lot, and is very, very taxing. But he said, on the flip side, coming off that, it means that I have 3 months where I can just decompress and focus on family, focus on this. So that is where he made the investment then. He said, there's one payment once every 3 months, and I get to then enjoy the channel and we can grow it into something brilliant. That is the next step for you then, is that once you get to a point where you are consistently showing up, then look at what it is that you're doing. Look at the messaging, look at the things that you can make small tweaks on that you can improve. If you're not getting any engagement and you got very low views, you got very low likes and low comments, you are at that point free to change anything, because no one's looking at it anyway. So that is the best time to really experiment with what you are doing. Is it the format? Is it the titles? Is it this? My advice to you would be to start with the thumbnail and titles, because it might very well be that the content that you're putting out is bloody good. It's just that no one's willing to look at it because the thumbnail and title isn't catching people's eye. And whilst it's a game that not even I like to play, I can't deny the reality of the landscape in which we have to live. And in this landscape, the way that business is played out on YouTube and this type of content, whether it be educational or entertainment, these are the rules of which it exists by. We can't get around that fact. I wish I could tell you that having a crap thumbnail would be great at the start. It's not always the case. If you compete in a say a niche which is very saturated, then you have to really, really think about it. And it can be disheartening, I'm not gonna lie, because even with my own channel is not doing amazing, and I need to up my game in that. And that is just something that I'm doing. Is not that one? Did I click the wrong one? Where did I go? Videos. So I'll give you a perfect example. Let's go back. So this is my channel. I've got 337 subscribers. Thank you for all the people that have. But like 19 views. 10 views. And these are parts of my podcast and everything. Now, I love the thumbnails. I'm really happy with them. But obviously there's something not right. So I need to work on that. And I know that it's going to be a long journey. So it's one of those, it is frustrating. And that is why I'm saying that creating content is a long game. It's a process of trial and error. It is a lot of frustration. And I'm not going to lie to you about that. But on the flip side, for someone like Nick, who has a good base at the start, the time that he's had back is fantastic. And the fact that being consistent and having that consistency now for the last 6 months, where 12 videos are coming out once a fortnight, for him, that's been fantastic. And his channel is now looking consistent. He's showing up consistently. His messaging is consistent. And what will happen is that because we've established a consistent base, we are now able to implement minor changes. We can now look at the analytics and say, right, okay, we need to tweak. When you swing big and you've already established a base, sometimes you can knock it out of the park, but you're also going to fall flat on your face, and you have to be prepared for that and be okay with it. But if your channel is like mine right now, where it's small, you don't have the obligation of being the person that you was 5 minutes ago. So you are free to change it, because like I said, no one is looking at it. It's different on LinkedIn, because I get more views on LinkedIn. So being consistent in showing up, you don't have to worry about the thumbnails and stuff with LinkedIn. So it's a different landscape in itself. But on YouTube, again, it's an ecosystem, and you have to adapt to each ecosystem. And it's the same with TikTok. How you present a video for that is completely different of how it's on YouTube, and how it would be in LinkedIn, and how it would be on Instagram. It's a minefield. But consistency, show up first and go from there, and then tweak. And that is it. I think I've rambled on enough now. It's about 30 minutes. I'm starving, and I'm going to go and have some food. So if you've enjoyed that, thank you. I would say I'll see you in the next one, but I won't. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm going to bed. I'm actually not. It's only, dear Lord, it's only 6:20. Night. I'm going. Have fun.